So recently, I was up recovering somebody and had a little bit of a snafu. I ended up getting a tow strap wrapped around my passenger front wheel down there. I'll show you a little more details in a second, but essentially what happened is it pinched and broke my ABS speed sensor cable. So today we're going to go through what it takes to replace one of those on an 18 JKU. All right, so we got the car up on the jack stand. Make sure the wheel can turn freely so we can get her off, but not too high to make it hard to put it back on. So you can see right here, because it's completely disconnected, that is what's left of my speed sensor cable, the ABS speed sensor cable. So what we're going to end up doing, we're going to remove this bolt here, this bolt down here to remove the caliper. We're going to remove the caliper housing by removing this bolt here and this bolt down here. Again, the sizes of the bolts I will put in the video here as a text, but we're going to get to that here in just a moment. Now, this part of the sensor cable, it's in a little clip housing here, and as you can see, it kind of interrupts my ability to hit the bolt. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that one piece here. There we go. It's broken anyway. And then there's a bit of gunk all up and in here, so I'm just going to wiggle this on here. As we look in here, we still have our caliper here that we want to be very careful not to break the, put the undue strain on the brake line. So we've got the speed sensor cable that's coming through some of these brackets. We're just going to pop it boop, out of the bracket, pull it through. Now as you pull this out, you want to make sure that you're tracking how it's routed, because you got to put it back the same way. So cable comes down through the shield here, and you'll see right here there's a little Allen that we have to undo. Now we're going to go ahead and do that. Screw out, place it over there in the bucket. Now that we're going here, so every mechanic I talked to said we need to be a little careful, because this is obviously, as my JK here is still low on miles, the original cable. So when you're looking at this, this is going into the axle area here, and it's a speed sensor, so there's a magnet that is on the sensor cable that's hitting a magnet that's inside on the axle here, and that's how it tells how fast you're going. Now, because this is the original one, we don't quite know what condition it's in. So the advice I had was grab with the pliers, slowly wiggle back and forth, slowly, and it'll pop out. You want to make sure you don't lose the magnet inside the axle assembly, or you have to go get it. And that can involve a gross thing of pulling this and pulling the whole axle out, which we don't really want to do tonight. So we're going to be super careful. So we're going to go ahead and give this thing a little wiggle. She is rusted in there. All right, well, we'll deal with that. So we're going to go ahead and remove the cable here as we can. Kind of give it a little bit of flex. You can slide it out of here thusly. Maybe. Here eventually. Flex on the metal, out we come. But that's a problem. That's not supposed to look like that. It's supposed to have an end on it. So that's fun. Got it out. Thanks to my brother for some good ideas behind that one. Drilling down, I drilled down the first one, screw broke off, trying to pull it out. Some penetrating oil, some time. Second hole, screw broke off. Third hole, got it out. All right, now I'll get to put the rest. So one of the interesting things about owning a Jeep in Minnesota, other than some of the rust you're seeing, is this time of the year we're lucky to get our sunshine that stretches past 5 o'clock. It's about 6 o'clock right now, and you know, the sun's about ready to go down, so we're going to start reassembling. Now we got that end clear, we can thread that through carefully and get it behind the metal guard. Bit of leverage and pop her through. There, look at that. Okay, now pull a little bit of the cable through like that, and then we're going to seat the sensor, and take our pliers and we're going to rotate it into place. Feed some of that cable back through the hole there without being too crazy. There. There. Look at that. And we're going to push that back. There we go. Now she's out. Look at that. Okay. First thing we're going to do is we're going to reinsert our Allen. So you can see now I've got the sensor seated. I seated it at a 90 degree because the angle up here couldn't get by the metal plate. Seated it, used a little gentle persuasion, popped it in, then rotated it into place, and we're going to complete it with tightening down the lock, the Allen lock screw here. All right, so that's set. Now we're going to thread this guy back through and just leave it hanging to then go take care of the other end. Here. Okay, so across the top, here is the cable. I'm going to pull that puppy through a little bit like that. We're going to reattach that rubber booty to that one. This rubber booty here, like so. Okay, so what I have now is a fully installed end of my sensor. I've routed it through the first two. Now, here we can see this is the pinched off end of the OEM cable that I had on here, and that went roughly to about what would have been here, punch, because the strap would have come over, would have pulled right here and pinched her off, boop, right there. So, okay. Now the rest of this, I'll pull the camera here. The rest of this is going to come through here, pick up at the other cable, go behind my shock, and here's our cable. It's going to go up and it fits back here. Now what I'm going to do is, you see there's two little body plastic pieces right there. If I can get around the shadow, I'm going to pop those out because that is actually the other end of the cable. We'll be able to put those back in, and it gives us a little bit of freedom to pull those out. All right, well, we got the sensor in, I think. Now it's time to put everything back together. Woohoo! As you can tell, it took a couple hours to get all that done. And let me tell you, trying to reach behind the shock tower and put that wire in, less than pleasurable. So make sure you account for plenty of time to do this if you're going to tackle it yourself. We have our cable in, our sensor cable in. It's hooked up on top. I've got my inner liner back installed. Now we have to reinstall the rotor. So we're going to put that on here in a second. The caliper bracket, the caliper itself. Make sure the brake pads are all nice and seated, button it up, slap the tire on. So that's what we're about to do. Place that. And like that. And to help us, we're going to put one of our spline nuts on a little bit here, just to keep it from falling off in the middle of all the fun here. But we're going to seat our caliper bracket right over the top of our rotor, right behind, and onto the mounting holes as I grab one of the bolts into our mounting hole for the caliper bracket. And now we have our sensor cables in the way again, like it was on the disassembly. So I'm going to quick just pop that back out for a minute so we can get into here. Looking online, caliper bracket for a 2018 JKU is 100 foot-pounds. So we're going to go ahead and use our torque wrench to get that down to 100 foot-pounds. Right there, that's 100 foot-pound. Get the caliper press going here. Pressy, pressy. There we go. Caliper reinstalled. Maybe. Come on. There we go. Pop some of the bolts in here, and then we'll torque it down. Nut just a little bit, not too tight, until we get into them in the